Hi, this is Anita from the Global Trade Gal. Sourcing is one of those sort of funny words where people that are in the global trade understand it. Other people may not quite understand exactly all the implications of the word. But sourcing is very essential and important in anyone who's in the global supply chain. That's why there are experts, and that's all that they do is they just source all day long. Sourcing means to be able to find products, materials, or other things that can either be used in manufacturing or it could be used to be purchased so that you can be able to buy them. There are really three main things when people are looking for sourcing, and it's the quality, make sure it's of the quality, the quantity, and the price. And those are the three essential things that need to be looked at. That whenever you're looking to source products, you need to make sure that you're able to buy the quantity that's required, it's at the price that's needed, and it's of the quality that you need. And that basically the person that you're buying it from can be able to deliver. Those are all very important things whenever you're looking to source a product. At Mondoro, we create, develop, and manufacture for the home decor and home furniture industry. And some of the things that we really have to do a lot is we need to be able to source or be able to find raw materials in order to produce the things that we need to produce. For example, it can be everything from a piece of hardware for a cabinet to it could be something like a piece of cabinet for a hardware, or it could be something like some material that we need in order to finish the product. There's many reasons why many times we end up doing international sourcing. In other words, we're in Vietnam, maybe we're manufacturing something and we might buy something from, say, China. And there's many reasons why. A lot of times it's the quality that, a lot of times it's just the best quality product we can find is in a specific region or place. It's also, the other reason could be specialization. There's some countries that just specialize in specific things and really do a great job with that, or they have unique materials, unique finishes, which are not available anywhere else. Cost efficiency. Well, quality is important. Also, you got to make sure that it's at the right cost and that, people can be able to buy it. In other words, we a lot of times will buy some metal fittings from China. And even though the primary product is being produced in Vietnam, that this will be sort of cross-border sort of transaction taking place of sourcing that makes sure all the components meet the high standards of what's required. International sourcing can actually be complex across borders. And that actually is one of the problems. And that's one of the things we're seeing, especially in the present political climate in a place like the United States today, where they're saying, well, we want to have everything made in America. Well, I can tell you now it's not going to happen. There's a lot of things which are just going to be made internationally and need to come across borders. Why? Because, one country may have the resources, the technology, they may have the raw materials and the other things to be able to make the product better than someone else can make it. And even if you make it in your home place, it may cost you a lot more than if you imported it or brought it across the border. But of course, whenever you're starting to bring things across borders, especially raw materials, there's a lot of challenges that go with it. One, of course, is logistical challenges and time management. You need to make sure that whatever it is that you can get it across the border, get it in the time that you need to, and then it can arrive at the facility in the time that's required. This is really, important. For example, we, at Mondoro, sometimes we will source some high quality veneer from China manufacturers. And in order to avoid production delays, we need to make sure we get that veneer material in at the required time so we can get the production out on time. This requires a lot of advanced planning. It means that you must have, reliable logistic partners. It means that you must sometimes even, buffer inventory a bit in case something happens. A lot of things about cross-border trade, which can get very complicated. And one of them, of course, is regulations and compliance. And, as I was saying to somebody recently, the problem with all the tariffs going on in the United States is that whenever tariffs happen, in the United States, and other countries start making things more difficult too. So it sort of becomes this sort of chain reaction where everybody's making it difficult, and it can make global trade extremely difficult. So things like, customs duties and tariffs, of course, is a barrier to trade. Quality and safety standards is another one. Make sure it complies with the quality and safety standards you need. And documentation and certification, making sure you have accurate documentation. You need to really be able to understand these things. People think that sometimes you think it's very easy. You just bring it across the border and that's it. It's really not that easy. There's a lot of different variables involved with even bringing simple parts from one country to the next. And you have to really ensure that there's consistent quality, because I can tell you now that if you bring something from, let's say we bring something from China to Vietnam and you bring it across the border and then you find out there's a problem, there is no way to be able to correct that. The cost to bring it back to China to correct it is huge. In other words, it would cost you more than if you just bought it new again. So that's why it's really important that whenever you're dealing with this type of thing, that you really make sure that whatever you're shipping, that it's of the quality that you need, that's consistent quality. And that's why we have people on both sides checking it out, counting it, looking at it, verifying it, because this is very, very important. You have to make sure you have stringent quality checks involved, that maybe the audits, relationships, and other things like that. There's many ways that why this is important and essential, especially in the type of industry which we're in, which was medium to high home furnishings. We need to be able to buy the parts, the pieces, the material, and other things, and many times we just have to simply import them. And this becomes this, strategically, we need to source these materials. We have to really be able to buy the best quality at best price that we can, in order to remain competitive. But not only that, is to make sure we have a quality product. So that is why it's important that we do all of these things within our supply chain itself, but it's also the reason why sourcing and understanding sourcing and how to bring things in and how to find the things that you need to is essential and very important. And it's also making sure that you have the product and you're shipping the product of the quality that you need, so you don't end up with problems once it's been produced. It may sound very simple and it may sound really easy, but the truth of the matter is that all these things are actually quite complicated, and it's quite a complicated process. It requires that a lot of things fall in line in order to make this happen. If you'd like to be able to read more about this, I've written a blog post on this called Challenges and Triumphs in Sourcing Raw Materials for High Quality Home Decor. And even though this is for high quality home decor, it's actually for any type of manufacturing at all. There might be some ideas here to help you to understand how to navigate this better. In the world we live in today, this is an important and essential part of most people's supply chain, most people's global supply chain, essentially, that you need to be able to find ways to bring things across borders, because it's just the way the world is working these days. Even if we want to try to stop it, we want to change it, it's actually the way the world continues to work. We'd like to thank you so much for listening and for joining us. We hope that you'll subscribe and become part of our community, and that you'll check out our blog. And if you're interested more in about home furnishing, home decor, or about the global supply chain. Thank you so much. This podcast is sponsored by Mondoro. We create, develop, and manufacture home decor and home furnishing products in Asia with a social conscience. We'd love to have you check out our blog at mondoro.com and sign up for our newsletter. We'll put a link below in our description so you can easily go there. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please give us a thumbs up and leave us a review. This really helps. Thank you again for listening.